GameStop got told absolutely not by eBay. Nintendo brought back Star Fox while simultaneously making everyone's wallets cry, and somebody basically leaked all of Forza Horizon 6 before launch. Oh, and Discord is slowly evolving into like a subscription bundle creature that feeds on every other subscription. Honestly, this week felt less like gaming news and more like watching the industry try to parallel park a bus on black ice. All that and more on this episode of The Rift. Hey travelers, welcome back to The Rift, the show where we dig through the biggest stories in gaming, tabletop, sci-fi, comics, fantasy, tech, and whatever strange corporate energy is currently possessing the entertainment industry this week. I'm your host, Pete from Ghostlight, and today we've got follow-ups on the GameStop eBay situation and Nintendo's Star Fox revival, a major leak story involving Forza Horizon 6, a couple of industry stories that might quietly matter a lot more than people realize, and then a lightning round that's somehow equal parts exciting and mildly concerning. All right, let's get into it. First up, last week we talked about GameStop trying to buy eBay, which already sounds like somebody generating a business strategy using ChatGPT and a six-pack of Celsius energy drinks. But here's an update. eBay has officially rejected the bid, like immediately. The company reportedly called the offer neither credible nor attractive, which is corporate language for don't call us, we'll call you. But the interesting part is Ryan Cohen's response, because instead of quietly backing off, Cohen basically escalated things publicly and argued that shareholders should get to weigh in on it directly. So now this has shifted from just a weird headline into something much messier and potentially more interesting. A boardroom fight. Physical games, collectibles, retro markets, graded cards, secondhand markets, online auctions. There is a version of reality where those things connect. But the problem here is the price tag. It's gigantic, and investors seem split between calling this a bold transformation and just saying, please take the keys away from this man. And honestly, both reactions seem fair. So here's a question for you. Do you think GameStop is evolving or just desperately trying to stay relevant before the industry fully moves past physical retail? Okay, time for our second follow-up. Star Fox is officially back. Nintendo confirmed a new Star Fox game for Switch 2 launching on June 25th. They announced it while I was editing the last video, and honestly, great. It's been long enough. Fox McCloud has basically been trapped in Nintendo storage like seasonal Halloween decorations. And now the game itself looks pretty promising. Online dogfighting, some new control gimmicks, and the usual Nintendo experimental energy where half the room gets excited and the other half starts sweating immediately. But what's more interesting here is the timing, because Nintendo announced this during a really weird week for the company. Switch 2 prices are going up, hardware projections are softer than investors expected, and suddenly fans are looking at Nintendo's lineup and asking, wait, is this a heavy hitter? Which is not necessarily fair to Star Fox, but it does change the conversation around the reveal. Because now Star Fox doesn't just feel like a cool comeback, it feels like Nintendo trying to reinforce the perception of the Switch 2 lineup. And that pressure kind of changes things. Also, can we acknowledge just how wild it is that Nintendo fans have to spend like 10 years begging for F-Zero, Star Fox, Kid Icarus, literally anything from the vault? And Nintendo responds like a dragon sitting on a pile of old franchise going, perhaps one crumb. Okay, time for our main story. Forza Horizon 6 reportedly leaked online in full before launch. Not a trailer leak, not screenshots, not somebody posting blurry phone footage from a warehouse somewhere. It's actually reportedly the playable PC build. And according to reporting this week, Playground Games came out and said this was not caused by a Steam preload issue, which immediately made the entire situation seem way messier. Because now people are trying to figure out where the leak actually came from. Review copies, back-end access, internal distribution, somebody's cousin named Kyle with admin permissions. Nobody fully knows yet, but Playground also reportedly warned users that accessing the leaked build could result in franchise-wide bans and even hardware bans. And that is the part I think matters the most. Because this story isn't just about one racing game, it's about the impossible reality of modern AAA launches. Games are bigger, teams are bigger, review pipelines are bigger, global distribution is bigger, security expectations, well, they're bigger as well. And yet somehow, leaks keep getting worse. Now, we've reached this bizarre era where games can basically exist online in complete form before official launch day, while publishers are still trying to preserve the idea of a synchronized global reveal cycle. And honestly, I don't know if that's sustainable anymore. The other thing here is spoiler culture versus preservation culture versus piracy culture all have kind of merged together online into one giant blob. Now, some people treat leaks like it's investigative journalism, others like they're early demos. Some people just flat out call it digital shoplifting, and everyone argues that they're the morally correct one. Meanwhile, developers are sitting there watching years of rollout planning explode in real time. And look, I understand curiosity, I do. But I think there's a difference between discussing a leak and actively spreading playable builds before launch. That crosses into territory where real damage can happen to studios, launches, review cycles, and even future access. The part that interests me the most is if even massive flagship games can't stay secure anymore, what does launch strategy even look like 5 years from now? Because I genuinely think that the industry may eventually shift towards shorter reveal windows, tighter review access, and more server-dependent launches specifically because of stories like this, which honestly kind of sucks. But let me ask you this, when massive leaks happen just like this, what's the real issue? Piracy, broken launch security, or the fact that modern games are almost impossible to contain in the internet era? Okay, a quick but important industry story here. Double Fine, yes, Psychonauts, Double Fine, has reportedly moved to Unionize under the Communications Workers of America. And honestly, this continues a trend we've been watching build for years now, finally cross into the games industry. Because even beloved studios with strong creative reputations are increasingly saying, good culture is nice, but contracts are better. And that's a key thing people sometimes miss in these conversations. Unionization doesn't automatically mean a studio is toxic. A lot of workers increasingly see it as infrastructure, especially in an industry that keeps cycling through layoffs, restructuring, acquisitions, crunch concerns, and now growing anxiety around AI tools affecting developmental pipelines. The games industry has spent decades running partially on passion and instability simultaneously. And I think that more developers are deciding they don't want those things tied together forever. Meanwhile, Discord Nitro is now bundling the Xbox Game Pass starter, which sounds small at first until you realize that Microsoft keeps acting less like a console company and more like a service ecosystem wearing a console costume. Xbox clearly wants Game Pass to have its hands into everything humanly possible. Consoles, PCs, the cloud, smart TVs, and now Discord partnerships. At this point, if I open a toaster and see a Game Pass integration card, I'm not even gonna bat an eye. But strategically, this does make sense. Discord already functions like a social operating ecosystem for the gaming community, so bundling Game Pass into that ecosystem is basically Microsoft trying to reduce friction between discovering games, talking about games, and subscribing to games. The interesting question here is whether subscription growth still has room to expand naturally, or if the industry is now entering a bundle everything together until consumers stop noticing individual prices phase, which historically is how every subscription economy has evolved naturally. And you know what that means? It is time for our lightning round, so let's get into it. Aaron Paul is reportedly joining Fallout Season 3, which means the Wasteland somehow just became even more stressful. Spider-Noir is releasing both in black and white and in color formats because apparently Prestige Television just finally discovered the DVD settings menu. Nintendo shares reportedly dipped after concerns over Switch 2's pricing and the lineup strength. Sony is saying gaming sales may soften as PS5 demand cools and hardware costs stay high. S&Box continues pushing its weird creator-friendly modding ecosystem, which honestly feels refreshing in 2026. Last Flag is already struggling with player discoverability, proving once again that making a decent multiplayer game is only step one. A Fast and the Furious TV series is reportedly heading to Peacock because no franchise is ever truly allowed to die anymore, and legendary comics writer Jerry Conway has passed away at 73. A huge amount of modern superhero storytelling traces back to his work, so genuinely respect where it's due. And that's what's crossed the rift this week. Honestly, the big theme this week feels like instability. Pricing instability, industry instability, platform instability, and apparently launch security instability. But buried inside all of that are some genuinely interesting shifts in how games, platforms, and fandoms are evolving. So, let me know in the comments, which story this week do you feel actually matters the most long term? And if there's something that we missed, throw it down in the comments below so we can follow up on it next episode. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes of The Rift. All of that algorithm wizardry really does help us out a ton. As always, I'm Pete. Stay curious, stay connected, and I'll see you next week on The Rift.